So before we create our record set, we actually need to create a health check, and we're actually going to create two. So what I want you to do is just go back over to the EC2 section, and what you want to do is just go into your Elastic Load Balancer for your primary website. So for me, this is going to be London, and I'm going to copy the DNS name of my Elastic Load Balancer in here, and then I'm going to go over here, go back over to Route53, and then I'm going to go into health checks, and I'm going to click in here, and we're going to create a health check. Now, health checks can be based on IP address or domain names. We're going to use domain names for this. So we're going to call this My London Health Check. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to check an endpoint, and that endpoint is going to be our domain name, and it is going to simply be the DNS address of our Elastic Load Balancer. So what this is doing is if our Elastic Load Balancer or both instances behind it go down, this health check is going to fail. So I'm going to click on Advanced Configuration. In here we can do the request interval. So is it going to check every 30 seconds, or is it going to be fast and do it every 10 seconds? I'm going to say fast. I'm going to make sure it fails after 1. So in theory, this health check will fail within 10 seconds of my site going down. I'm going to leave everything else as default. Go ahead and hit next. And you can create alarms. We won't create an alarm on this one, but we will create an alarm on another one. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit create health check. So that is now creating my London health check. And what I want to do now is create a health check on my entire website. So I'm going to do, we're going to call this my production site. I'm going to go ahead and change it to domain names, and then that's just going to be hellocloudgurus.com. And you can put in here a path, so you could do index.html if you wanted. Again, we're going to do this fast, so it's going to be 10. We're going to do a failure threshold of 1, so it will be within 10 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And in this one, I will create an alarm, and I'm just, you can see I've played with this before. I'm going to create a new SNS topic, and it's going to be called My Website is Down. So I'm only going to get this email when my entire site goes down. So you can enter in an email address in here, and there we go. I've created my health checks. Now, the health checks can take a little bit of time, to come online. Don't forget, right now we are checking the Elastic Load Balancer's DNS name, so that should actually come online fairly quickly. But right now we haven't configured any zone apex records in Route53, so it's not, my production site is always going to fail. And if we just click refresh, yep, we've got one that's healthy, one that's unhealthy. So let's go back into our hosted zones, and we're going to go to Hello Cloud Gurus, and in here I'm going to create my first record set. So I'm going to leave it as my naked domain name. I'm going to make it an alias, so it's going to resolve to an AWS resource. And in here, I'm going to click on my primary website. So we're going to do this on my Elastic Load Balancer. So it's going to basically route any traffic from hellocloudgurus.com to my Elastic Load Balancer in London. I'm going to change the routing policy. It's going to be failover. Now in here we have to specify whether this is our primary or our secondary site. So primary is going to be your production site. Secondary is going to be your DR site. So I'm going to make this my primary site. In here we have to evaluate the target health, and we have to associate it with the health check. Now there's two health checks that we've got. My production site is your entire site, and it detects whether or not it's gone down. So if I click in here, I'm actually going to get a little error message when I go into create, and it says the record set could not be saved because the domain name to which this resource record set resolves is the same as the domain name of the endpoint that the health check is checking. So your health check isn't going to work. That's why you would use your Elastic Load Balancer's DNS name. So you go in and click in here, and then you'll get rid of that error message. So go ahead and hit create, and there we go. So we've got a hellocloudgurus.com. It's an A record. It's using an alias. It's resolving to our London Elastic Load Balancer. Its target health is being checked, and that's the health check ID. So what we want to do now is create a secondary record set. Again, it's going to be our naked domain name or our zone apex record. I'm going to click in here, and we're going to fail it over to Sydney, and then we're going to use a failover routing, and this is our secondary site, and we're going to leave it all as no. So we'll go ahead and hit create. So now we've got two DNS records. We've set our primary, which is associated to our health check. You can see it here. We've got our secondary in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to go to hellocloudgurus.com. Okay, so I've gone to hellocloudgurus.com, and as you would expect, it is resolving to London because it is my primary site. Let's go back over to our management console, and now let's simulate a failure. So we'll go over to EC2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop both EC2 instances, both the primary and the secondary. You can go to instance state, and I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. Now this will take, maybe up to 30 seconds to stop. So I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, so they're both stopped. So let's go over to services, go down to networking, go to Route53, and let's have a look at our health checks. And we should expect one health check to have failed, which will be our elastic load balancer health check, but our domain should still be up because it should be failing over to our Sydney region. So if we click on here, there we go. So we've got one's healthy, one is unhealthy. So our London health check has gone down, but our website is still up. So we wouldn't have gotten an email saying our entire website has gone down. And if I just go to hellocloudgurus.com, you'll be able to see that we are now on the Sydney web server. So why don't we take Sydney offline? Let's go back over here, go down to services and go over to our EC2. And then we want to change our regions over to Sydney and go ahead and click in here. It's just a little bit of latency. There we go, click on our one running instance. So now I'm going to take this instance offline. So we are on our DR site, obviously it's resolving to our DR site. So now we're going to stop this instance, and then what I'm going to do, it should be pretty quick. If we go back to Route53 and then we go into our health checks, it might not be immediate, but if we just click in here, we should know within about 10 seconds of that instance going down, our health check is going to fail. So let's go ahead and hit refresh, and there we go, it's unhealthy. So now let's go back over to EC2, and we're going to go back to the London region, and we're going to boot everything back on, in fact, and then our website should come back up online. So there's a little bit of latency, just going to go back over to London, should be much quicker this way. And then I'm just going to go into my running instances, and I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to go actions, instance state, start, and yes. And then our health check, give it a couple of minutes, but your health check should start coming back healthy for both of them because you're able to resolve both your naked domain name as well as the elastic load balancers that these EC2 instances sit behind. Okay, so London is back online. Let's go over to services, go down to Route53, and we're going to click on our health checks. And in here, we should see both of them as healthy now. Yep, there we go, both healthy. So that is it for this lecture, guys. In the next lecture, we're going to look at geolocation, and then we're going to summarize what we've learned in the Route 53 section of the course. So if you've got the time, join me in the next lecture. Thank you.